Dear students, in this session, we will be discussing about nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, popularly called as NMR spectroscopy. NMR spectroscopy is a versatile tool in predicting the presence of a particular nuclei in a compound. However, you have some other techniques also available to know the presence of a particular nuclei, a particular atom in a compound. But NMR is highly an expensive instrument. The reason why NMR is advantageous despite of its cost is its utilization in finding the chemical environment of a molecule. The advantage of NMR is the chemical shift and spin coupling. So that will help you to know about not only the nature of the nuclei, the presence of a particular nuclei in a compound, but also the chemical environment of a particular nuclei which is surrounding. Okay, so now let us try to understand the basics of NMR spectroscopy. You know, every spinning particle like electron or proton or neutron, okay, possess certain magnetic moment. As a result of the spinning particle, as a result of the magnetic moment generated by the particular particle, the angular momentum is developed for the rotating molecule. So how to predict that the particular nuclei is NMR active or not? Okay, so for a nuclei to be NMR active, it should be a magnetic nuclei. Okay, certain nuclei do not, they are called a non-magnetic nuclei, cannot give you NMR spectra. Okay, so if you take up a nucleus, it consists of proton and a neutron. Proton has got mass and a charge, positive charge, whereas neutron has got a mass and has no net charge, has got no charge. So when you, the sum of the spin, the total spin of the nuclei, it consists of the spin of the proton as well as the neutron. Say this is a nucleus which consists of proton and a neutron. The spin of the nuclei consists of both proton and a neutron. So if I take for example hydrogen, mass of the hydrogen is represented in the prefix H1. Okay, an atomic number is written in the lower subscript. So this mass number H1 corresponds to 1 proton. Hydrogen nuclei consist of 1 proton and 0 neutron. Okay, so the total spin of this nuclei is the spin of the proton, okay, which is half plus half. Okay, so but the spin of neutron, which possesses neutron, there is no neutron here, so there is no question of spin of neutron. Okay, so the total nuclear spin of this compound is equal to 1/2, half. Okay, so this is called a half integral value. So this nuclei possess half nuclear spin half integral, which is a half integral. Okay, now let us take another atom, say C12, carbon 12. Okay, so this consists of 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Okay, the total spin of this net nuclear spin of the nuclei is equal to 0. Okay, so hence this is a total I for this total magnetic moment I for this nuclear spin I is equal to 0 here. Okay, so if I take carbon 13 C13 as an example, so this consists of 6 protons and 7 neutrons. As total spin of this nuclei is equal to 1 by 2, half integral. Okay, so we have 3 types of nuclei. One is called half integral nuclei, zero nuclei, and we have integral nuclei also. In the case, take this an example, boron 10, which consists of 5 proton and 5 neutron. Total spin I is equal to 1, not a half integral. So we have 3 different types of nuclei: nuclear having half integral value, nuclear having 0 spin, and nuclear having integral value I is equal to 1, 3, 4, 5, like this. Okay, so of these nuclei, nuclear having net magnetic moment or net nuclear spin equal to 0, it cannot give you NMR. This cannot give you NMR. So they are NMR inactive. Whereas nuclear having some nuclear spin or total magnetic moment, half integral or integral, they are NMR active. They are NMR active compounds. Okay. So let us discuss this in a greater detail. So look here. So we have 3 classifications. One is a non-magnetic nuclei in which both the proton and neutron is even. Okay. Say for example, carbon 12 has 6 proton and 6 neutron, both even. Oxygen 16, 8 proton and 8 neutron, both even. Helium 24, 12 proton and 12 neutron, both even. So where both proton and neutron are even, it possesses 0 spin, and this nuclei with a 0 spin are non-magnetic, possess no net magnetic moment value, and they are non-magnetic nuclei, so they cannot give you NMR. So they are NMR inactive by nature. Whereas look at these 2 cases, one where charges are odd, okay, but the mass is even. So the proton is, they are mostly isotopes of compounds. Say for example, deuterium is a isotope of hydrogen, which consists of 1 proton and 1 neutron, So charge of the nucleus is odd, 1, but the mass number is even. Mass number is 2 here, so mass number is even. So here look at this N14, which consists of 7 proton and 7 neutron. So charge is odd, 7, but the mass number is 14. Boron 10 consists of 5 proton and 5 neutron. Charge is odd, but the mass is even, 10. Okay. So in all these cases, for hydrogen, deuterium and nitrogen 14, the net nuclear spin is 1. For boron 10, the spin is 3. So both have got integral spin. They have got a integral spin. Okay. So this is, however, a magnetically active nuclei. So look at this proton H1 has got a spin 1 by 2, nitrogen 15 has got a half integral spin 1 by 2, oxygen 17 has got a half integral spin 5 by 2, boron 11 half integral spin 3 by 2, fluorine 19, phosphorus 31, all has got a half integral spin 1 by 2, chlorine 3 by 2, mercury 199 1 by 2. So in this case they possess an odd mass. They possess an odd mass. The mass number of the nuclei is odd. So these nuclei are NMR active by nature. They are magnetic nuclei and they can give you NMR spectra. Okay. So what we understand that a nuclei with both a proton and a neutron even is non-magnetic and cannot give you NMR spectra. So a nuclei with a proton odd and a mass number even, NMR active. A nuclei where both odd charges and a odd mass number, they can be NMR active. Okay. So before you go into the NMR spectroscopy, let us identify the different types of nuclei and find out whether they are NMR active or not. Okay. So a spinning nuclei is just like a bar magnet. Okay. So which produces magnetic lines or magnetic flux lines around the nuclei. So we are now going to see the interaction of a spinning nuclei with a applied magnetic field, with an external magnetic field. Okay. So assume this is a nuclei with a proton and a neutron. Okay. So this is a magnetic nuclei and this spins. This magnetic nuclei spins on its own. So when a magnetic nuclei spins on its own, it generates a magnetic field. It generates a magnetic flux lines. It acts like a small bar magnet. Okay. So when this spinning nuclei is placed under external magnetic field, the magnetic lines are split. The energy of a nuclei is split. So the spinning nuclei with a half integral spin plus half and a minus half integral spin. In the absence of magnetic nuclei, the energy remains the same. Absence of field, the energy remains the same. But in the presence of field, in the presence of applied field, the magnetic moment changes, plus minus half to plus half. Okay. So this spinning nuclei either aligned with the external magnetic field or it gets opposed to the external magnetic field. So if you apply a magnetic field in this direction B0, it gets sometimes aligned. So this is alignment to the magnetic field. Both are in the same direction. So sometimes it gets opposed to the magnetic field. Magnetic flux lines are opposed here. Okay. So they are opposed to the magnet. This direction is downwards and this is towards this direction. So based on the applied magnetic fields, then the energy levels or the energy levels of a particular nuclei is split into two. The energy level gets separated. So let us see how to calculate the energy levels. What is the energy level required for a particular a proton, or what is the energy level required for an electron ultimately. Okay. So this magnetic moment, the magnetic moment or angular momentum is represented by a symbol I. Okay. The spin quantum number of a particle is equal to plus half or minus half, either plus half or a minus half. the net angular momentum of a spinning nuclei is equal to square root of I into I plus 1 into h by 2 pi units. So this becomes I into h by 2 pi units. Okay. So this is the net angular momentum for a particular spinning nuclei. Okay. So when this spinning nuclei is placed under external magnetic field, when this nuclei is placed under the influence of external magnetic field, the magnetic dipole arises. So the magnetic dipole mu, which is equal to q by 2m into angular momentum, total angular momentum, capital I. Okay, so the q by 2m, this can be written as q by 2m square root of I into I plus 1 h by 2 pi. Okay, so as a result we can write this mu is equal to q by 2m into square root of I into I plus 1 joules per Tesla. It is represented by the unit joules per Tesla. Okay, so it can also be in amperes per meter square. Okay, so this this equation, however, is an approximation. This net magnetic dipole or is q by 2m square root of I into I plus 1 is only an approximation, because we are considering that electron or a nucleus to be a point charges. However, they are not point charges. Electron is not a point charge which is revolving around the nucleus. However, proton is not a point charge which is keep revolving or rotating on its own along with the neutron. So and hence this I introduce a factor. So sorry, this will come here. So you have 2 pi into 2, so that becomes 4 pi into m. Okay, so qh by 4 pi m square root of j into j plus 1 joules per Tesla. Okay, so assuming that electron is not a point charge, I introduce this value, this constant. So this is called a G is nothing but gyromagnetic value. Or gyromagnetic ratio. This can be called a land is splitting factor as well. This can be called a land is splitting factor or a gyromagnetic ratio. Okay, so now I can once again rewrite this equation. Mu is equal to G beta square root of I into I plus 1 joules per Tesla. Okay, assuming beta as QH by 4 pi m. So this value B is nothing but Bohr magneton. Value B is nothing but Bohr magneton. Okay. So again, now let us substitute this B value in this equation. Now mu become equal to z into beta square root of I into I plus 1. Okay, where beta is equal to QH by 4 pi m. This is for electron. Okay, for electron this value is minus. We have to put a symbol minus. For a proton, this mu is equal to plus g beta square root of I into I plus 1. So the Bohr magneton beta for this nuclei for a proton is equal to, for an electron, the Bohr magneton for an electron will be around 9.273 into 10 power minus 24 joules per Tesla. Okay, and the same beta for a proton, this become equal to 5.050 into 10 power minus 27 joules per Tesla. So the gyromagnetic, the Bohr magneton value differs for a nuclei to, particle to particle. For electron, it is 9.273 10 power minus 24, and for the proton, it is 5.050 in 10 power minus 27. So this can be the total angular momentum can be further written G equal to minus G beta into total angular momentum I in the reference direction Z. Okay. Similarly, this one mu is equal to plus G beta I in the reference direction Z. So this is for a proton and this is for an electron. Okay. So now we have found out the magnetic dipole, the strength of the magnetic dipole mu. Okay, for electron and a proton in the nucleus. The electron which is revolving around the nucleus, and proton which is inside the nucleus. Now let us see how this revolving nuclei or particle splits its energy level when applied to a external magnetic field. Okay, so that is the our motive. I have told you in the introductory class, the spinning particle acts like a small bar magnet, generates magnetic flux lines. When this spinning particle is applied against an external magnetic field, the external magnetic field is either aligned with the spinning magnetic flux lines of the spinning particle, or it is either opposed to the applied magnetic field is opposed to the flux lines of the external magnetic field. Okay, so now let us see how the energy differences arises. Okay, so now as an extent of interaction between the magnetic dipole mu and the applied BZ, applied field in the EZ direction. So that is the interaction we have. So the energy levels delta E between these two energy level will be EL minus 1. Okay, so the energy level difference between the two lower one and the higher value, higher energy value, which is equal to Z mu is nothing but Z beta IZ, Z beta IZ, okay, and now let us write this BZ, okay, minus Z beta IZ minus 1, I of, sorry, IL, can say say this is a L, IL minus 1 into BZ. Okay, so this will finally, if you multiply this to inside and expand this equation will become Z beta N, okay, and beta BZ, that's all, into this angular momentum value Z. Okay, this much joules of energy. J stands for joules, energy in a joules. Now the energy level difference, let us find it in frequency. Delta E is equal to H mu. Frequency, energy level difference in terms of frequency is equal to delta E by H. So delta E by H is equal to Z beta N BZ by H. Okay, so this value changes, differs for a nucleus and a proton. Okay, so if I substitute the value of for a proton, okay, this comes around G is 5 point, as we have already told, 5.585 into 5.05 into 10 power minus 27 into BZ value 2.3487 whole divided by 6.63 into 10 power minus 34 is equal to 100 into 10 power 6 hertz. Okay, for an electron, delta E by H value, okay, so this is 2, G value is equal to, G value is 2 for an electron, it is 5.585 for a proton, 2 into 9.273 into 10 power minus 24 into 0.34 whole divided by 6.63 in 10 power minus 34. This is equal to approximately 9500 in 10 power 6 hertz. Okay, so for an electron, this value is 9500 in 10 power 6. For a proton, this value is 10 power 100 into 10 power 6. This is 100 megahertz. 100 megahertz. So at this frequency 100 megahertz, the proton sufficiently resonates. So at this frequency, the resonance absorption of radiation takes place. So normally the proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy is studied at 100 megahertz frequency range. Okay, so it is because of this reason. Okay, but for an electron, this value changes from 9500 megahertz. Okay, so this value changes from nuclei to nuclei. Okay, for proton we have a value, and for carbon 13 we have a value, for silicon, phosphorus P31, and nitrogen 15. So this applied field value changes. So proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy lies in the radio frequency region 100 megahertz is much closer to the is at the radio frequency region. Okay, but for electron resonance spectroscopy, this value gets shifted towards a higher frequency from 100 to 9500, higher frequency, in fact lower, a lower wavelength. So that means it gets slightly shifted towards the radio frequency and microwave region, radio frequency region and partly a microwave region. Okay, so in this class we have learned the basis of NMR spectroscopy, or how and when a particular nuclei become NMR active, what are the nuclei are NMR active, and we have learned the interaction of spinning nuclei and the applied magnetic field strength. Okay, and what frequency the resonation of a particular nuclei or particular particle takes place. Okay, so with this we will move on to the next session. If you have any questions, you can post it in the comment box. Thank you.